Welcome back, guys. This is, of course, me, Mr. Siege. Now, there has been a little bit of confusion about Elizabeth I in terms of her active skill, how it may work, and I wanted to go through what I think and what it should be, to be honest with you. Now, Omniarch thought the active skill could stack, and you'd be doing more and more damage over time. And I think Chadsky said something similar or thought something similar. Now, I don't believe that's how this would happen. That would be insane in huge Imperial kingdoms, and it would be too good, too broken. And which is why they're not going to do that to a ranged commander. Ranged commanders these days are very, very mid in Rise of Kingdoms. Now, again, Elizabeth is mid for a ranged march in comparison to every other ranged march. Now, if you haven't seen Dark Siege's recent video, he explains why Siege are really not so good these days. And, you know, he spoke to the developers about why ranged aren't good. Basically, they want to try, or apparently they were trying, to get them on an equal DPS to basically the normal melee commanders, which they're not. You know, they're dealing a 1500 damage factor on their active skill, which is miles off some of the newer commanders. They're doing 3000. Now, yes, if they're in melee range, they're doing a bit more, 2700. And this is the highest damage factor we have from a ranged commander. Apart from Gonzalo, who obviously does 1200 to 3 targets, which obviously then equates to a higher ranged damage factor. Now, the question is, and this is the second part of the active skill for Elizabeth, the next time this commander's troop uses an active skill, it deals 15% more damage for that skill. Now, this isn't relating to just Elizabeth. This is relating to the next active skill used in this march, this troop, the commander's troop. It's not just relating to the commander, Elizabeth as a commander, because otherwise it would have been worded as the next time this commander uses an active skill, it deals 15% more damage for that skill. And then, yes, it would presumably stack up. So 1500 damage factor this time, and then you've added another 225 damage factor on the next time. That isn't how I read this, and I don't know why people were getting confused. Obviously, we'll do testing on this. I will max Elizabeth, although you can probably do testing in, you know, your Ark of Osiris, your custom Ark of Osiris, which I'll probably do before maxing her. Because at the end of the day, guys, Elizabeth probably isn't going to be in the top siege march. That's very, very likely to remain Gonzalo and Gauge Armada, sorry. And that's because V formation is really set out for ranged smite damage commanders with a normal damage boost. It's not really set out for the skill damage commanders. So even with this, I don't think this means Elizabeth has to be the primary commander. And I'm not saying, actually, she will be bad with Cordoba. Because even if Cordoba was the primary commander, I don't think you'd want to use Elizabeth as a primary commander if you did end up running her with Cordoba, because she has the skill tree. Cordoba using the attack tree will be fine. But again, she will launch her active skill, and then the next time this commander's troop uses an active skill, which will then be Gonzalo again on the next set of active skills, he will do 15% more damage on his 2400 factor AoE active skill, which is great. That's actually a good improvement to his active skill. Now, again, Gauge Armada does buffs to ranged normal damage. So really, that doesn't mean she's going to be mega compatible with Cordoba, because she won't be. And I think she's going to play somewhere in the second best ranged march. So she'll be able to pair with somebody, more than likely Afonso. And I'll tell you why when we get to one of the other skills. So, but that's how I think this second part of the active skill will work. The next active skill that the troop does will be boosted by 15%. not 15% more each time. So let's get on to the second skill. Obviously, we have been through this on a live stream, and I'm just going to repeat it again. 40% more defense, 20% march speed. It is nice. This commander is going to be really tanky indeed. And not just tanky, because you get onto the third skill, they're going to get extra rage and extra attack. And this is going to stack up to 5 times. When you use the active skill, Sovereign's Glory, they're going to gain another stack of glory, because each stack of glory grants 5 rage and 5 attack. A great rage engine, exactly what siege commanders need, because they're very slow at generating rage. It's unlikely this is going to over rage. It won't do. And that's because when you're firing at range, you're not receiving counterattacks back. So when you're not receiving basic attacks, those basic attacks from melee troops, you're not generating much rage at all. They're very, very slow at casting active skills, and that's been a huge problem with range commanders. Sometimes you can't even get off a first active skill in certain fights, and that's because of setting up towers and taking down towers. And obviously this is going to be an improvement with Elizabeth. If you're getting a lot of moving about, Elizabeth will be able to take her tower down faster, and that's something we'll be able to test when she's released into game. Also, guys, I do believe she'll be released on the wheel around the 30th of June. That's what we've been told by support. She will be a Wheel of Fortune commander, which makes sense. And I do believe that the leadership commander will be MGE, which generally has been in the past. So let's move on to Secret Service. Now, this is where, when you're not within melee range, so you're firing at range, you're dealing damage, additional damage to the target troop for 2 seconds. So 2 lots of this, you gain even more rage, which is fantastic. And this effect can be triggered up to 3 times per second. So this happens when, like Afonso or Gonzalo, but I don't know if that's classed as ranged additional damage because Gonzalo does smite damage. So this may just be Afonso. Again, I'll have to test it just to make sure. And that's when it can be triggered 3 times per second because of Afonso's active skill hitting 3 targets. But again, there is 80% chance, which is very high, and any other range additional damage that you're launching on target troops will trigger this effect. And obviously in melee range, then it's increased. And reducing damage dealt by 30% for 2 seconds is so good, because obviously it makes the march more tanky. It's great to see this march is more tanky than previous marches like John and Stephen. When you get attacked at melee range, you're just melted. It's just gone. So it's great we've got some tankiness. And Afonso is pretty tanky to a certain extent. Also, apologies about the top, by the way. I've literally just got back from work. And this is my work top, so there's marks all over it, stains and all sorts. Because I'm a gas engineer, you know, it's a messy job. But this is very, very good. And Elizabeth is a very strong commander. But I do believe it's going to be a second Siege March commander. So not everybody should be investing in this. Most people should only have 1 Siege March. Siege aren't a meta these days. They're not amazing at all. Gonzalo and Garjamada are pretty strong. I wouldn't put that in the top 3 marches in Rise of Kingdoms, though. You know, your QSH marches, your Sun Tzu Prime march, your Achilles march. They're your top 3 marches. Potentially, Cordoba and Garjamada are probably a 4th march, but ranged are very difficult to use a lot of the time, unless you're in a massive Imperial Kingdom where bullfights stay still. Lots of people don't need a ranged march. It's probably going to be a 6th march or a 7th march, where if you get the perfect scenario, yeah, I'll throw it out. I'll throw it out with epic gear or a legendary. Well, you can only get a legendary leadership set. A bit like what Stu was doing. Now, obviously, this enhances. This is the active. No, not the active skill. This is the expertise skill, which enhances Let Tyrants Fear, and this allows you to do more rage gain, more attack, which is great, and also lets you take your tower down a little bit faster. 3 seconds once you've got 5 stacks of glory is great. Getting away from the enemy 3 seconds faster makes a huge difference, by the way, guys. Even 1 or 2 seconds gives you enough time to not be hit, which is actually pretty insane. You know, even with a faster commander like Stephen or Margaret, Elizabeth could have great value. And we're going to do all the tests, guys. Don't rush into investing in Elizabeth. Really, really don't rush into investing in her. I will do all the tests that need to be done. I'm going to test all the commanders all over again as well, because things have changed. We've got 3 new meta marches which we need to be testing against as well. We're not going to test at melee range. We won't test this march at melee range, but I do think she will be good, very, very good indeed at melee range, probably with Babur, who does a decent active skill damage and is very good in a 1v1 situation if you wanted a duel. And Elizabeth will be great at dueling. So that is an option if that's what you want to do. Overall, I think she's a great range commander. She will be a very, very good range commander. But again, I do think second march material, if you've got Gaja Cordoba, you're fine. You're sound, guys. You don't need to do anything else. Elizabeth maybe could be okay with Cordoba. It could be very, very slightly better than Gaja potentially. But the synergy isn't there. And we'll test it. We'll just test it, guys. Wait for the testing. Don't rush into it like many people rushed into Afonso. And he's not amazing. He's not top 3, top 4, top 5 troops in the, part of the meta in the game. He really isn't. You should be investing in those melee marches first. QSH march, Achilles march, and the Sun Tzu Prime march. They should be your priorities. Your ranged march should not be a priority in Rise of Kingdoms, unless you just enjoy playing with range like I do. So guys, I hope that clarifies a few bits about Elizabeth, and I do look forward to testing her and for you checking in with me, guys, and watching. Hopefully we'll probably do a live stream of testing, and then I'll break it down into a video in the future. So look out within the next month, guys. She should be here in game. And I'll see you in the next one, guys. This is Mr. Siege. Bye-bye.